This post is all about confidence. The first step to confidence is actually identifying what confidence is, what does it look like, and how an athlete knows they're confident in the first place. So what is confidence? What I've done with athletes is I say, hey, what does confidence mean to you? How do you know you're confident? And a lot of times they'll grapple with it, and all of a sudden they'll say one thing that resonates with them. And that might take 4 or 5 minutes of a conversation, but it's worth it. Next, I ask them, hey, what about another person? Who's the most confident person you ever played against? Who you ever watched on television? And they'll mention an athlete. They'll mention Derek Jeter. They'll mention Jocelyn Alo of Oklahoma. And I'll say, why? How did you know they were confident? And they'll sit there and think, and more times than not, they'll say, you know what? It was no big deal when they got out. The idea of failure, it's this confidence in not being successful all the time. It's this confidence in failure that people are attracted to and they're trying to reach. So the very last thing, and I'll say this to them every single time we go into a hitting lesson, every time we leave a hitting lesson, I'll say, what is your confidence at the plate right now on a scale of 1 to 10, but you cannot pick a 7, because that 6 and 8 is gonna mean a lot more. That 7 is such a safe number. It says I'm confident, but not too confident. 6 and 8, I can identify a lot more in how that person is doing. Sometimes I'll even go even deeper, and I'll say, what's your confidence on defense? What about when you're in practice versus a game? What about in travel ball versus high school? What about in a classroom? I'm trying to find out where their most confident self exists and then show them that they don't have different selves. They have one person, and if they can be confident in one area of life, we can transfer that to all other areas of their life. Okay, now that we have identified what confidence looks like, what does it feel like, we have to start teaching the concept of ACE. Acting changes everything. So we have to teach the hitter, or we have to teach the softball player, or really just the female athlete, that the ability to feel confidently all the time and no matter what, that's not always a choice. We can't always control how we feel. But the decision is to act confidently at all times, even when we don't feel it. That's when we'll start to really have this snowball effect and get this bulletproof confidence, because even after we strike out, we say, you know what? That sucks. I just struck out. I don't feel good. But I'm going to start acting confidently. How do I know how to act confidently? I've already identified it. I'm going to stand with my shoulders back. I'm going to continue talking to my teammates. I'm going to become really aware of my self-talk and make sure it's positive and make sure it's something that is going to propel me in the right direction instead of pull me back in the negative direction. So acting changes everything. Again, posture is huge. Walking around, trying to feel that confidence. Sometimes you have to film yourself in your room when no one's watching and see, do I look like the most confident hitter when I'm walking to the plate? I don't know. You have to film yourself. Do I look like the most confident pitcher on the mound? Look at yourself. Ask yourself how you can maybe act a little bit more confidently, what your focus could maybe look like, to then have that start to transform how you feel. You have two options. We can succumb to this negative self-talk that pulls us down in a direction that does not lead to success. Or we can fight this, train this, work at it, and get ourselves into a position where we can actually train confidence and be successful for not just your sport, for the rest of your life though. Okay, we have now identified what confidence is. We now have trained ourselves to act confidently even when we don't feel like it. We still need to be aware of detriments to our confidence. What's going to take shots at our confidence? What's going to make the biggest impact? For me, it was when I took a pitch that I felt like I should have swung at. Or it was when I swung at a pitch I had no business swinging at. I felt like it was a wasted pitch, it was a loss of focus, and that, for some reason, more than anything else, really drained my confidence. I had to become aware of it, and I had to mention to myself, you know what? I don't have to battle this alone. And I'd look at a teammate and I'd say, you know what? When those two things happen, it really bugs me. If you don't mind, can you remind me that I'm a fearless hitter, that I can still crush a ball because I get 3 strikes, not just 1 in at bat? Those two reminders just pulled me out of that negative self-talk, and it was the little help I needed to propel myself forward. So understand, confidence is not something that you have to just harness on your own. And comparison is the thief of joy. You're gonna run into people that look immensely confident, and you're watching them in the thing that they do best. But you watch them go do something else, and their confidence shrinks and shrivels. But you are only seeing them through one lens. That lens might be social media. That lens might be for a snippet of time on television playing softball. But what you don't realize is how much work maybe they've put into it, or the fact that not every single person feels and acts that same way. So if you start comparing yourself to the most confident person you've ever seen in a 1 or 2 minute period of time, you're gonna start to turn in on yourself and wonder why you can't feel that way all the time either. Focus on yourself, focus on how you can harness this confidence, how you can develop this confidence, and you're gonna make it something completely unique, completely your own. Don't be afraid to ask for help and get yourself in a position where you now have a game plan to develop that confidence for the long term. If this was interesting to you, if this is something you liked, we have a $1 mental game course. All this is focused on is basically how can we train our mental performance? How can we start becoming a little bit more aware of what's going on in our head? How can we start journaling? How can we start reflecting on what's going on inside of us instead of just the physical reps and sets that we're getting in the weight room or the cages or in the circle. So give that a look. It's about 28 to 35 minutes depending on how long it takes you to get through it, but it'd be well worth your time to make your way through that and have those tools for the rest of your career.